The ice beneath James Smith's feet groaned like a dying animal. April 19, 1962. Latitude 81 degrees north, 600 miles from the North Pole. Temperature minus 42 degrees Fahrenheit. Smith stood on frozen Arctic Ocean, wearing thermal layers that barely stopped hypothermia, staring at abandoned Soviet research station NP-8. 3 buildings, red paint fading to gray, windows dark, no movement. The station had been abandoned 3 months earlier when shifting ice threatened to crack the flow. Soviet researchers evacuated fast, left equipment, left documents, left secrets. Smith's job: get inside, photograph everything, collect documents, then extract using a system never tested in Arctic conditions. Skyhook. His partner Leo Leshak stood 10 feet away, checking gear with methodical precision. 41, former Marine, civilian contractor. Like Smith, he'd volunteered knowing this might kill him. "Ready?" Leshak asked through his balaclava. Smith looked up. Somewhere above clouds, a B-17 bomber circled, waiting for extraction signal. When signal came, plane would swoop down, deploy steel cable with hook, and literally snatch them off ice at 150 mph, if it worked. Ready, they walked toward the station, each step crunching, each breath burning. This was Operation Cold Feet, and it had started 4 months earlier with a discovery nobody expected. January 1962, Naval Air Station, Kodiak, Alaska. Lieutenant Commander Paul Griffin stared at reconnaissance photographs on his desk. Standard Arctic patrol mission. Routine monitoring of Soviet activity. But these photos showed something impossible. Soviet ice station, clearly marked. Red buildings, radio antennas, located at 81 degrees north. Abandoned. No lights, no smoke, no aircraft tracks, nothing. Griffin picked up his phone, called his CO. "Sir, you need to see this." 24 hours. Photos on plane to Washington. 48 hours. On desk of Richard Bissell, CIA Deputy Director. Bissell studied them with sharp interest. Abandoned Soviet Arctic station, potentially containing classified documents. Scientific equipment. Intelligence about Soviet Arctic capabilities. Question: how do you get there? Station sat on moving ice 600 miles from nearest land. Too far for helicopters. Too dangerous for sustained operations. Ice could crack any time, destroying everything. Standard methods wouldn't work. But Bissell knew someone who might have solution. February 1962, CIA Technical Services Division. Robert Fulton sat in Maryland workshop examining blueprints for system he'd developed for years. Fulton, surface-to-air recovery system. Skyhook. Concept, simple and insane. Person attaches to harness connected to balloon lifting steel cable 500 feet up. Aircraft flies toward cable at 150 mph. V-shaped yoke on nose catches cable. Hydraulic winches engage. Person yanked off ground and reeled into aircraft. Fulton had tested successfully. On dummies, sheep, volunteers hooked from Maryland fields. Never in Arctic, never at -40, never on moving ice. CIA contacted him about Cold Feet. Fulton's first reaction: skepticism. Cold will make cable brittle. Harness could freeze. Balloon might not inflate. And if ice cracks during extraction, your men die. So it's possible. Fulton looked at photos, at intelligence sitting there waiting. Possible. But whoever goes needs to understand they might not come back. March 1962. Recruitment. CIA put out classified call. Civilian contractors. Arctic experience. Parachute training. Extreme risk acceptance. 8 applications, 6 interviews, 2 selected. James Smith, 38, geologist. 2 years Alaska petroleum surveys. Experienced outdoorsman. Former Army paratrooper. Leo Leshak, 41, photographer and Arctic researcher, former Marine, multiple Greenland, Alaska expeditions, comfortable in extreme cold. Neither had intelligence experience. Neither was trained spy. Civilians asked to conduct a Special Forces-level operation. Both volunteered anyway. CIA flew them to Camp Peary, the farm, for intensive prep. 3 weeks training, Arctic survival, extreme cold operations, document collection, photography, and critically, skyhook extraction. Fulton supervised practice runs. They were hooked repeatedly from Virginia fields, lifted, reeled into aircraft, learning to trust a system defying human instinct. First moment is worst, Fulton explained. Cable catches, you'll be jerked forward at 7G forces. Feels like truck hit you. Body swings violently. You'll think something went wrong. That's normal. Winch engages after seconds and stabilizes. Then just a ride. Just a ride, Smith repeated. 150 memoirs in Arctic. Exactly. Questions? Plenty. But answers wouldn't make it less terrifying. April 16, 1962. Departure. B-17 departed Elmendorf, AFB, Alaska at 6 a.m. Smith, Leshak, Fulton, crew of 6 aboard. Plane specially modified for skyhook. V-shaped yoke on nose. Hydraulic winch systems. Reinforced cables. Everything needed to snatch men off Arctic ice. Flight north, 4 hours. Weather marginal but acceptable. Clouds at 8,000 feet. Wind northwest 30 knots. Temperature dropping. 10 a.m., pilot spotted Soviet station. 3 buildings on vast white expanse. Ice extending to horizon. No other features, just ice. Drop zone in 5. Smith and Leshak checked equipment final time. Parachutes, Arctic survival gear, cameras, breaking-in tools, food for 3 days, skyhook extraction equipment, harnesses, balloons, cables, everything needed to survive. Or die trying. 10:12 a.m., Jumpmaster opened door. Arctic wind screamed in. Temperature dropped instantly. Go! Smith jumped first, fell, parachute deployed, descended toward ice rushing up, landed hard, rolled, stood, made it. Leshak landed 30 seconds later, 40 yards away. B-17 circled once, climbed, disappeared into clouds. Return, 48 hours. Smith and Leshak stood alone, 600 miles from land, surrounded by one of Earth's most hostile environments. Mission clock, 48 hours. They walked toward station. April 16th, 11 a.m. Station NP8. Main building door, frozen shut. 20 minutes chopping ice with axes before forcing open. Inside, darkness, cold, protection from wind. Smith activated flashlight. Beam cut through gloom. Equipment everywhere. Scientific instruments, radios, weather gear, research notes, documents scattered on tables. Soviets abandoned so fast they left nearly everything. Jesus, Leshak whispered. Gold mine. They began documentation. Leshak photographed with cold weather camera. Smith collected documents sorting by importance. First building, meteorological research, ice formation studies, climate data, valuable but not critically sensitive. Second building, interesting, submarine acoustic research, studies on sound travel under Arctic ice, Soviet naval operations info, details about underwater listening posts. This was what CIA wanted. Evidence of how Soviets prepared for Arctic warfare. Naval operation plans, vulnerabilities. They worked methodically despite cold. Inside, still below zero. Breath formed clouds. Fingers numbed through gloves. After 6 hours, thousands of pages photographed. 150 pounds documents and equipment collected. But outside, ice was moving. April 16th, 8:47 p.m., the Discovery. Smith entered the third building. Smallest one. Living quarters. Bunks along walls. Small kitchen. Personal items scattered. He swept flashlight across room, then froze. In corner bunk, A body, Soviet researcher, male, mid-30s, wearing thermal clothing. Eyes closed, face peaceful, dead. "Leo," Smith called. "Get in here." Leshak entered, saw the body. "Christ." Smith approached carefully, checked for signs of life. Nothing. Body frozen solid, dead for weeks, maybe months. On small table beside bunk, journal. Handwritten Russian. Smith spoke Russian. He picked up journal, read. "What's it say?" Leshak asked. His name was Dmitry Volkov, geophysicist. He was sick when evacuation happened. Smith paused, reading. They left him. Told him rescue would come, it never did. Last entry dated January 15, 1962, 3 months ago. Day 4 alone, radio not working, no aircraft sounds, temperature dropping. I think they're not coming. I think I'm going to die here. Final entry, just 2 words in shaky handwriting. "Forgive me." Smith closed journal. Looked at frozen body of man abandoned by his own government. Left to die alone on Arctic ice. "We need to document this," Leshak said quietly. They photographed the body, the journal. Everything. Evidence of Soviet callousness, of how little Moscow valued its people. Then they left the building and returned to work. But image stayed with Smith. Dmitry Volkov, abandoned, frozen, dead. That could be them if Skyhook failed. April 17th, 3 a.m., the crack. Smith woke to sound like thunder, sat up, disoriented, trying to identify noise, then felt it. Movement. Ice shifting, grabbed a flashlight, ran outside. 50 feet from main building, crack appeared, maybe 6 inches wide, growing. Leshak emerged behind him. "We need to move. If this flow breaks, we're dead." Extraction equipment positioned 100 yards away. Skyhook balloons, harnesses, cables. All set for B-17's scheduled arrival in 12 hours. But if ice cracked beneath that location, extraction point useless. Next 2 hours, moved everything to more stable ice, working in darkness, fighting exhaustion and cold, knowing another crack could open anywhere. By 5 a.m., repositioned. Back in buildings trying to sleep. Neither slept much. Ice continued groaning. Crack continued spreading. Arctic, reminding them who was in control. April 17th, 9:23 a.m., the Soviet patrol. Smith heard it first. Distant engine sound. Aircraft. He ran outside. Scanned sky. There, northeast. Twin-engine plane. Soviet markings barely visible at distance. Patrol aircraft. Probably routine, checking ice conditions. Looking for what? Abandoned stations? American intruders? "Get inside," Smith shouted. They ducked into building. Watched through window. Soviet plane circled once. Wide orbit, maybe 5 miles away. Did they see footprints, equipment, signs of American presence? Plane continued circling. Then turned toward station. "They're coming closer," Leshak said. Smith's mind raced. If Soviets discovered them, mission over. Best case, international incident. Worst case, imprisonment. Execution. Soviet plane descended. Altitude dropping. Coming directly toward NP-8, 5 miles, 4 miles, 3 miles. Then stopped. Leveled off, turned away, continued patrol route. Engine sound fading. Gone. Smith exhaled breath he didn't know he'd been holding. "Too close," Leshak said. "Yeah." They waited 30 minutes, making sure plane didn't return. Then resumed work. But now with urgency. Soviets were out here, watching, patrolling. Extraction needed to happen. Fast. April 17th, 2:09 p.m. Extraction. B-17 appeared exactly on schedule. Smith and Leshak heard engines first, then spotted aircraft emerging from clouds, descending. They activated extraction system. Inflated helium balloons. Balloons rose, lifting steel cables 500 feet up. Each man attached a harness. Checked connections. Checked again. This is it. B-17 circled once. Pilot lined up approach. Speed, 150 meters. Altitude, 300 feet. Smith watched plane approach. Watched V-shaped yoke aimed at his cable. Moment of truth. System works or he dies. Plane, close distance. 100 yards, 50, 20. Yoke contacted cable. Nothing for half second. Then cable snapped taut. Smith yanked forward. Force crushed air from lungs. Body whipped violently. Ground disappeared. Airborne, spinning, disoriented. Certain something catastrophically wrong. Then winch engaged. Spinning slowed, stabilized, flying. Being reeled toward aircraft like fish on line. B-17 crew opened rear cargo door. Reached out with poles. Guided him toward opening. Hands grabbed harness, pulled him inside. Collapsed on aircraft floor. Breathing hard, alive. One down, going back for second. Plane circled again. Lined up on Leshak's cable. Yoke caught cable. But Leshak's harness connection malfunctioned. Instead of lifting cleanly, dragged across ice at 150 meters. Body bounced, skidded, cable tangled, winch jammed. Inside aircraft, crew shouted commands. Pilot reduced speed. Winch operator worked frantically clearing jam. After 300 feet dragged across ice, winch finally engaged properly. Leshak lifted into air, reeled toward aircraft, pulled inside, lay on floor, battered, bloodied, alive. Never doing that again. B-17 turned south. Climbed to altitude. Below, Soviet station disappeared into white expanse. Crack in ice continued spreading. Within week, entire floe would fracture. Station would sink into Arctic Ocean. But Smith and Leshak got there first. Collected 150 pounds Soviet intelligence. Survived conditions that should have killed them. Found evidence Soviet government abandoned its own people to die alone on ice. Operation Cold Feet, complete and classified. For next 40 years, nobody outside intelligence community would know two men parachuted onto Arctic ice, robbed Soviet research station, and got hooked by flying plane. Nobody would know about Dmitry Volkov. Soviet scientist left to freeze. Nobody would know how close Smith and Leshak came to joining him. But CIA knew. And intelligence collected that day would inform American understanding of Soviet Arctic capabilities for decades. Worth the risk? Smith thought about Volkov's frozen body. About last journal entry. Forgive me. Yeah, worth it. The B-17 touched down at Elmendorf Air Force Base in Alaska at 6:47 p.m. on April 17, 1962, 14 hours after extraction. Smith and Leshak had spent those hours wrapped in blankets, drinking hot coffee, trying to stop shivering. Arctic cold had penetrated so deep their bones felt frozen permanently. When cargo door opened, Robert Fulton was the first inside. "You made it." Then his eyes settled on Leshak's bruised, cut face. "Jesus, what happened? Your system tried to kill me. But didn't, that's what matters." CIA debrief team was waiting. Medical first, then questions. Every detail, every document, every observation. April 18, 1962, 9 a.m. The interrogation room. Smith sat across from 3 CIA officers in windowless room at Elmendorf. Senior officer, late 40s, gray suit, opened folder. "Walk us through entry into third building, the one with living quarters." Smith had answered questions for 3 hours already. Exhausted, still cold, wanted sleep. We entered around 8:47 p.m. on April 16th. Smaller building, bunks along walls, personal items scattered. And there was a body, Soviet researcher, dead, frozen. The officer leaned forward. "Describe everything." "Male, mid-30s, thermal clothing. In corner bunk, eyes closed, face peaceful, dead for months." "How do you know months?" Journal on table beside him, handwritten Russian. Last entry, January 15th, 3 months ago. Second officer spoke up. What did journal say? Smith pulled notebook from jacket. I copied final entries. Day 4 alone, radio not working, no aircraft sounds, temperature dropping. I think they're not coming. I think I'm going to die here. Silence in room. Final entry was 2 words. Forgive me. Third officer, younger, made notes rapidly. You photographed everything? Everything. Body, journal, multiple angles. Senior officer closed folder. This is significant intelligence. Proof Soviet government abandoned one of its own people. Left him to freeze. That's valuable. Valuable how? Smith asked. Propaganda. Demonstrates Soviet callousness. Shows they value operational security over human life. We can use this. Something twisted in Smith's stomach. Use it how? Radio broadcasts into Soviet Union, leaflets, information campaigns. Make Soviet people question their government's humanity. Smith thought about Dmitry Volkov, about Forgive Me, about man who died alone 600 miles from anywhere. His name was Dmitry Volkov, geophysicist. He had family, probably. That makes it better, the officer said. More human, more relatable. Better for who? The officer's expression hardened. For winning Cold War, Mr. Smith. That's why you went out there. That's why we do this work. Smith nodded, said nothing, but understood clearly Volkov's death was just data, intelligence to be exploited, propaganda to be weaponized. Human cost didn't matter, only operational value. April 25, 1962. Washington, D.C., Bissell's office. Richard Bissell reviewed Cold Feet summary while Robert Fulton sat across from him. Skyhook performance concerns me, Bissell said. Leshak's harness malfunction nearly killed him. Extreme cold made connection brittle. Cable caught improperly, but system still worked. Barely. Correct, barely. Bissell looked at photos from NP8, at documents collected, at proof Soviet station had existed and been abandoned. Intelligence value justifies risk? This time, Fulton said, but I wouldn't recommend Skyhook for routine Arctic operations. Too many variables, too much that can go wrong. So, one-off missions only. Yes, sir. Bissell made decision. Continue development for specialized operations, but document limitations. Cold Feet worked because we got lucky. Next time, luck might run out. Fulton stood, understood. After he left, Bissell sat alone reviewing photos. One showed Volkov's frozen body. Another showed journal entry. Forgive me. Bissell had ordered operations that killed people, authorized missions where casualties were expected, made decisions trading lives for intelligence. But something about Volkov bothered him. Not Soviet enemy killed in conflict, just researcher abandoned by his own government, left to freeze because evacuation was complicated. That could have been Smith, could have been Leshak, could be any officer CIA sent into field. Bissell closed file, filed it, moved on. But image stayed with him. May 15, 1962. CIA headquarters, Langley. Award ceremony, classified ceremony, small room, handful of CIA officers, no publicity, no records beyond internal files. Bissell stood at front. Smith and Leshak stood before him. What you accomplished at NP8 required extraordinary courage, Bissell began. Standard speech, he'd given it before. You parachuted onto Arctic ice in conditions that could have killed you. Worked 48 hours in -40 temperatures. Extracted using experimental system never tested in those conditions. Brought back significant intelligence. He paused. Looked at both men. The nation can never publicly acknowledge what you did. Your families won't know. History won't record your names. But intelligence community knows. We're grateful. He presented CIA intelligence stars. Smith accepted his. Shook Bissell's hand. Thank you, sir. Leshak accepted his. "Sir, can I ask a question?" Bissell nodded. "The Soviet researcher we found, Dmitry Volkov. What happened to intelligence about him?" "Used appropriately. Why?" "Just wondered if his family knows. If anyone told them what really happened." Bissell's expression softened slightly. "No, they don't know. Likely never will. Soviets probably told them heroic story. Accident during evacuation, state honors, comfortable lies. So, nobody mourns him truthfully. No, nobody does." Leshak looked at metal in his hand. "Seems wrong." "It is wrong," Bissell said quietly. "But that's espionage. We steal secrets, exploit tragedies, use people's deaths for operational advantage. It's ugly work, but necessary." "Is it?" Smith asked. "I believe so. Otherwise we wouldn't do it." After ceremony, Smith and Leshak walked a parking lot together. "You believe him?" Leshak asked. "About necessary part?" "Don't know, maybe, but thinking about Volkov makes it harder." "Yeah, me too." They separated, returned to civilian lives, didn't discuss Cold Feet again for years, but Volkov stayed with them. November 3rd, 1975. Washington, D.C. Unlikely reunion. Smith sat in Georgetown bar when Leshak walked in. They'd arranged meeting weeks earlier. First time seeing each other in 8 years. Leshak looked older. Gray in his hair, lines around eyes, but same intensity. "Jim." "Leo, good to see you." They ordered drinks, made small talk about families, careers, weather, dancing around real reason they'd met. Finally, Smith asked, "Do you think about it?" "All the time." "The mission, or him, Volkov. Wonder if he had wife, kids. Wonder if they know what happened. Wonder if they think he's hero or traitor or just gone." Smith nodded. "I researched him. After declassification never happens, but tried finding information. Nothing public. Soviets erased him completely. Like he never existed." "Exactly." Leshak drank. "You know what bothers me most? We took his journal, his last words. Forgive me. His family never saw that. Never knew what he was thinking. We stole even that. For intelligence value. For propaganda, to make Soviets look bad." Smith considered. "They did look bad. They abandoned him. True, but we used his death. Made it operational. Turned human tragedy into intelligence product. That's the job." "Is it, though? Is that what we signed up for?" Smith didn't answer. Because honest answer was, he didn't know. Cold Feet had been adventure, exciting, dangerous, meaningful. But finding Volkov changed something, made abstract intelligence work concrete, human, cost measured not in documents collected but in frozen bodies left behind. "I wish we'd buried him," Leshak said quietly. "Or marked location, something. Anything, so he wasn't just gone. Ice took him. Station sank 6 weeks after we left. He's somewhere under Arctic Ocean now, unmarked, unknown, forgotten, by everyone except us." They drank in silence. Two men who'd done extraordinary thing and were haunted by what they'd found. June 12, 2012. Smith's home, Virginia, the phone call. Smith's phone rang at 3:47 p.m. He was 88 years old, retired 30 years, living quietly. "Mr. Smith, this is Jennifer Walcott, CIA Public Affairs." "Yes?" "I'm calling to inform you Operation Cold Feet has been declassified. Documents released today. Your participation is now public record." Smith sat down. 50 years. He'd carried it 50 years in silence. "Public?" "Yes, sir. Media may contact you. We wanted you to know first." "Can I talk about it?" "Most details, yes. Some operational specifics remain classified, but majority is public." After she hung up, Smith sat holding phone. 50 years. He pulled out old box from closet. photos from mission, notes he'd kept, copy of Volkov's journal entries he'd transcribed. Forgive me. Now, world could know about NP8, about Skyhook extraction, about 2 civilians who'd done impossible thing. But world wouldn't know about Volkov. That detail remained classified. Body found at station. Identification uncertain. No journal mentioned in released documents. CIA had edited him out, removed uncomfortable parts, left only heroic narrative. Smith picked up phone, called Lishak's widow. Leo had died 5 years earlier, heart attack, gone before seeing declassification. Martha, it's Jim Smith. I have news. 2019. Smith's obituary. James Smith died March 14, 2019, age 95. Obituary mentioned distinguished geology career, work in Alaska, CIA service. One line, during Cold War, participated in classified intelligence operation designated Operation Cold Feet. That was all. One line summarizing mission that had defined a significant part of his life. His children asked about it at funeral. What was Cold Feet, Dad? But Smith had never fully explained. Even after declassification, some details remained classified, some he'd chosen to keep private, like Dmitry Volkov, like Forgive Me, like carrying memory of frozen Soviet researcher for 57 years, 2024, Arctic Ocean, the body. Dmitry Volkov's body remained somewhere beneath Arctic ice. Station NP8 sank in June 1962. Ice reformed and melted countless times over 62 years. Ocean currents shifted wreckage across seafloor. Nobody knows exact location. Nobody's looking. Volkov's name appears in declassified Cold Feet documents as footnote. Soviet researcher deceased, found at station. No mention of journal, no Forgive Me, no abandonment details, just deceased. His family, if they survived Soviet era, likely never learned truth. Likely were told comfortable lies, accident, tragedy, state honors, easier than truth. But 2 men knew truth, Smith and Lishak. They carried it. Smith carried it 57 years until death. Lishak carried it 45 years, and now they're gone too. Volkov's truth died with them, the legacy. Operation Cold Feet proved concept. Civilians could conduct extraordinary intelligence operations with proper training and equipment. Skyhook proved functional but dangerous in extreme conditions. Retired by 1970s when helicopters improved. Intelligence collected informed American Arctic strategy for decades. Worth the risk? CIA said yes. But Smith, in quiet moments before death, thought about Volkov. About man who died alone, about Forgive Me. And wondered, was it worth this? No clear answer, just frozen body somewhere beneath ice. And memory carried 57 years by man who'd found him. That's Operation Cold Feet. Not just technical triumph, but human cost. Hidden, classified, forgotten. Except by those who were there. And now they're gone too.